First, the myth of novelty. It's generally assumed by most people in advertising and marketing that consumers want new stuff. We want new phones and new shoes and new clothes and new apps. We want to listen to new songs. We want to be aware of the most recent hits, whether it's in podcasting or television. We want new things. But the oldest finding in the history of psychology is an idea called the exposure effect. The exposure effect. In other words, we have a bias not toward novelty, but toward familiarity. And indeed, this is true when you look at the results from entertainment companies. 90% of the time that we are listening to music, we are listening to a song that we've already heard. Despite the millions and millions of songs out there that we could listen to for the first time, 9 out of 10 times, we want to listen to a song that we've already heard. Or look at the movie industry. Every year this century, a majority of the top 10 films in America have been sequels, adaptations, or reboots. So the way to think about this idea, I think, the patron saint of this concept, that we want not surprises, but familiar surprises. Ideas that exist at that magical intersection of the familiar and the surprising. So Spotify, the famous international music app, which I absolutely adore, has a program, a feature called Discover Weekly. So if you have Spotify on your phone or on your computer, every week, Spotify gives you 30 songs, 30 new songs that it thinks you're going to like based on your music listening preferences. So let's take the example of Apple. When Apple was coming out with the first Macintosh computers, the first desktop computers that were made for a consumer crowd in history, in tech history, a brand new product, a surprise for consumers. Steve Jobs very famously said at the beginning of the conference that would show this new computer to the world, he said, when people see the desktop screen, I want it to say hello. I want the screen, he said, to look like a face. Because indeed, if you're in the business of selling tech products, of selling new ideas, new apps, new hardware, you are constantly in the business of selling surprises to a consumer base that wants familiar surprises. And so Steve Jobs understood that his challenge was to make the surprising familiar. Start by asking yourself, is my job to sell surprises, or is my job to sell that which is familiar? Because those are really, really different jobs. To sell what's surprising, make it familiar. But to sell what is familiar, make it surprising.